Hey guys, okay, so welcome to my DeepFaceLab tutorial. I'm just going to jump straight into this. It's going to be very simple and condensed. This isn't going to go into professional or high-end results. It's just going to get you on the track to actually using it and seeing just how simple this actually can be when you take away all of the stuff that you don't actually really need to be able to just make a fun deepfake. So first thing you want to do is go to the link in my description or just search on Google for DeepFaceLab, and it will be the GitHub page by Ipirov, I believe his name is. I apologize if I've absolutely ruined that name, but I believe it's Ipirov or Ipirov. And you scroll all the way down. Once you get to this page, scroll down all the way past all of this and you'll get releases. Now what I did was I downloaded it on the Mega link, so I'm just going to open up that page there, and you get 4 options. You get your 2 DirectX 12 options. This is the latest one, 2022, or obviously you've got last year's. I can only assume that last year's is still there because maybe some people had problems with the new one. Otherwise, why would that be there? But if you do have issues using 2022, maybe try and roll back to 2021. However, if you do have an NVIDIA card, I would suggest using these because they are highly tuned for NVIDIA. In fact, DeepFace technology in general is way more tuned to NVIDIA cards than other brands. So I would suggest that if you've got an NVIDIA card, stick with these. I used this one because my card is up to an RTX 2080. But obviously, if you've got an RTX 3000 and above, then first of all, well done for actually getting one, and second of all, use that one. But if you haven't got an NVIDIA card, then use one of these. I would suggest that one, and if you have any issues, go back to that one. So yeah, just download it. It's obviously quite a big file, 3 gigabytes ish. So I've already downloaded it. So I'm just going to jump to my folder here. Okay, so as you can see, I've already extracted the exe file to the folder, and this is the folder that you get with all of these files in. And on Windows PCs you may get asked if you want to definitely extract it. It might ask you about protecting your PC because it's an exe file. All you do is with Windows you just click more info and then click run anyway, and then it will start the extraction process. On other operating systems it could be different. But this isn't really a tutorial on how to unzip a file or extract files. This is more just getting you going. But it just creates that file there. You can delete that once once you've used it, because you've got this folder. So you'll get a lot of files in here. You don't need like 90% of them, and I will show you exactly which ones that you do need, and keep it very, very simple. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to extract images from the source file. Now the source file is Robert Downey Jr. So it's going to take every single frame of that video and extract all of the images into our workspace, and it will be in the data source. Okay, so for that all you need is this one that says number 2, extract images from video data source. Now all we're going to do is double click that, wait for it to load. Now I'm going to be using practically the default settings for everything, because I've seen some other tutorials where they dive in and they're changing numbers and they're not really telling you what the numbers mean. They just type it all in and say just do this, and then of course things fail because things can be quite different for everybody depending on what video you're using, what images you're using. So with this I'm just going to hit enter, and enter is basically the default. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. Output image format. Now default is PNG. The default range will always show on the left hand side here in the little brackets. I'm happy using PNG. It's a good solid image format, so I'm just going to hit enter again. And now what it's going to be doing is extracting all of the frames of the video, but the default FPS showed as 0. But actually it's decided that the default FPS is 48 frames per second. That's okay. So when you're entering 0 as the default frames per second, you're not actually telling the software that there's no frames. What you're actually telling it is you decide what the FPS should be. and 48 is totally fine, not a problem. So it says here press any key to continue, so I'm going to press the enter key, and as you can see the window has disappeared. Now what that has done is, if you now go into data source, you'll see that it's now extracted all of the frames from the video. Now this is like stage 1. I'm going to bring up one of these, and as you can see it's basically created the entire video. These frames weren't blurry, it's just when I'm clicking through quickly. There you go. So it's actually extracted the whole video just in frames. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to do the same thing, but we want to do it on the destination video, which is of course Elon Musk. So we're going to do the same, extract images from video data underscore DST full FPS BAT. Okay, so double click on it and wait for it to load. Once again, output image format PNG is the default, so I'm just going to hit enter, and now it's going to extract all of the Elon Musk face images. So we're going to wait for that to finish. Of course these are quite small files, but depending on what you're making and how long your video is, this could take anything from minutes to hours to sometimes days if you're doing whole movies. I mean, it just gets very complicated, but this is the basics. So once again, press any key to continue, and once again I'm just going to show you data DST, and it's done the exact same thing as the Robert Downey Jr. one, and it's extracted every single image from that file. So we've now done the extracting of the images. That's like the main first step here. So the next step that we're going to do is extract the face sets from those images. Now the face sets are, let me show you one here. If I go to, say for example this one, there's a lot of unneeded information in this image. Okay, now the software doesn't need to know about that logo, it doesn't need to know about the microphone, his hand, his shirt, the background, anything. All it needs to know about, I'm going to zoom right in, it's going to look bad because the quality of this video that they're giving you isn't great, but all it needs to know about is this section right here. That's all it needs to know, it's all it cares about. So what we need to do is we need to tell the software, I want you to basically make a face map just of the faces in these images, ignore everything else, and that's what a face set basically is. And we're going to be doing that by clicking on file 4, data underscore source, so source being the Robert Downey Jr. video, face set extract BAT. Okay, so we're going to be double clicking that one. So I'm just going to hit enter, and face type, there are 3 different face types you can change. I think it's whole face or head or something like that. You can just hit question mark and it will tell you. So full face, whole face, head. Whole face covers full area of face including the forehead. The head covers full head but requires a different option here for source and destination. So what we're going to be doing is just basically once again hitting the default, which is WF. Max number of faces from image. This is handy if you have multiple faces in an image, but as we're only using one, I'm just going to hit enter. Image size, it defaults to 512. That's okay for me, but once again you can hit question mark and it will tell you the differences, but yeah, 512 is fine. So I'm just going to hit enter. 90 JPEG quality, or you can go up to 100, so you can just type in 100 there. But once again I'm just going to hit enter. Write debug images to aligned debug. I'm just going to hit no. Basically what this one is if it finds a face that it can't quite use, it will copy those images to a folder called aligned underscore debug for you to jump into and maybe edit to make them better. But to be honest, I've never really felt like I've had to do that, so I'm just going to hit enter because enter is already defaults to null. Right, so now it's extracting faces. This could take a while, so I'm probably going to pause in a moment. I want to wait until at least this comes up because I want you to see exactly the process. So basically what happens is that's the overall percentage. That is the well, it's kind of like an iteration, so it goes through 10 times per percentage, if that makes sense, kind of. This is the frame, so it's on currently 44, for example, of 655 images. So it's actually reckons it's going to take 4 minutes, and it's currently on 42 seconds, and that's the iterations per second, so 2.3 iterations per second. An iteration is basically how many times the software goes over the image to analyze the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, because it's only 3 minutes, but I'm going to pause anyway, and I'll come back when that is done. Okay, so that has now finished, and it did take roughly about 4 minutes 18, so it was actually pretty spot on. And the next thing that we want to do is we also now want to extract the face set from the destination file, which is this one all the way down here. So already we've just completely ignored all of these, and we can hit number 5, data destination or underscore DST face set extract bat. So we're going to hit this one now, and it should take roughly about the same as the last one did, because the videos are very similar length. But once again, we're just going to hit enter. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit enter. Enter. I mean, how easy is that? Just, you haven't got to dive into any of the options. Once again, once you have maybe done this a few times and you've experimented on this a few times, you can dive into the options and tweak little options and do things that perhaps are going to make your output even better. But this is just to dive in and get started. Once again, I'm going to pause the video because this reckons it's going to take about 13 minutes. It's dropping quite quickly, so probably half that, I would imagine. But yeah, I'm going to pause the video and we'll get back into it once this is done. Okay, so now that is done. It took roughly 11 minutes and 12 seconds in the end, so not too bad. But as I say before, please remember that this obviously would take longer depending on the size of your videos. So we're going to hit enter. So the next step is training. Now what this will do is it will put the source face onto the destination face, and it will try and align them as best as it can, and if it can't align them perfectly, it will try to merge faces and create a new face to give that realistic effect. This can take a long time, or it can take a short time depending on your video. So what you want to do is you want to scroll down and you'll see all of the training options here. You've got train AMP, SRC to SRC, AMP, Quick 96, SAEHD. I'm going to be using SAEHD as I find it's probably the best results that I get for not the best quality videos, if that makes sense. So if my source video isn't the best quality, I find SAEHD still does a good job at making it look good, whereas Quick 96 I get quite a lot of hit and misses. So I'm going to be using SAEHD, so I'm going to double click this, let this load. So once again, we're going to just be using the default settings. So I'm going to click no new model. Model first run, what would you like to use? I'm going to use my GPU, of course. Auto backup every hour. This is set to 0. That's fine for me. But you can type in an hourly range if you're doing a long video. But I'm just going to click no. Write preview history, no. Target iteration. What this is I would recommend doing about 100,000 iterations, or between 50,000 and 100,000 iterations. Now that's how many times that the software will go over that face to make sure that it's looking good, basically, that it's aligned right, and that it's something that's going to work. 100,000 iterations I find to be kind of a sweet spot, so I'm going to be leaving it on. I'm going to be aiming for that. You can type in 100,000 iterations if you wish, but I'm just going to leave it on 0, and that will tell the software just carry on until I stop you. So I'm going to be hitting enter. Flip source faces randomly. I'm going to hit no on that, so default. Flip DST faces randomly. Default is yes. I'm going to click that. Batch size of 8. I'm okay with that. 128 resolution, yes. Face type, face, yep. I am not entirely sure what AE architecture is, but I'm just going to leave it on default. Leave that on default, and that, and that, and all of these. As you can see, there is a lot that you can tweak and go through, but I've just hit enter on all of them, so basically default. So now it's going to load in all of the samples of the destination and the source, and it will try and combine these faces to give you something that looks pretty cool. So what you want to do is just wait for a moment. I'm not going to skip this until I get to a point where there's no point you actually watching it. Right, so what you get, this is flashed up on my second monitor, what you get is this, okay? And this little window will help guide you in how close the faces are currently matching. Now, unfortunately, this isn't an auto update window. So what you have to do is you have to click, as you can see up here, P. So if you click the letter P, you'll now see that it's on iteration 70. And as you can see currently, the faces look absolutely horrendous, which you'd expect. But what you can do is just very, randomly just keep hitting P, and you'll see that what it's trying to do is it's trying to get this face to match this face. And if it can't do that, it will choose another random frame and try again. So what you want to be doing is you don't want to update all the time. Like, you could just leave this for an hour, it doesn't matter. But I'm just showing you it just so you can actually see what's happening. And eventually the faces will look closer and closer and closer to the point where they almost match, and it will almost be an identical face right here. And what it does is it takes this face, for example, here, and this face here, and it tries to output a face combining both of them. I aim for about 100 to 100, well, ideally 150,000 iterations is like, yeah, that's actually pretty decent. So I'm going to pause this for now, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so it's been about 27 minutes, give or take, and I'm going to update this one more time for you. And you can see that it's done 4,255 iterations. Now, bear in mind, really you want to be aiming for 100, 150. You can get away with 50, but 100, 150 realistically for a good outcome. Now, as you can see, compared to the faces that were there before, these look so much better. You can see that it's taken Elon's face position and it's putting Robert Downey Jr.'s over the top. So it's trying to match every single face with pictures of Robert. So I'm going to update again. And every time you press P, it will just update these to show you the next one that it's doing. Not all of them will look great, especially with only 4,000-ish iterations. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Enter just to show you what the next phase would be. So I'm going to click Enter. And that will now stop the process, and you'll see it over here. That window will disappear. And you got to click any key to continue. So I'm going to do that. So once that is done, the next stage that you want to do is you want to merge the images that it's created together. So to do that, you want to go merge SAEHD, because that is the option that we used. If you used Quick 96, then you'll want to click the Quick 96 and so on. But I'm going to choose the merge SAEHD, and this little box will come up, and I'm just going to click Enter because I've only got one model that I've trained. If you've got multiple, then you might get more on there. I'm going to also click Enter for NVIDIA GeForce. Use interactive merger, yes. Number of workers, that's default. Right, so it's going to collect all the alignments of all the images, and it will bring up a new window for you. Okay, so this one can once again look pretty daunting, but it is pretty simple. So what this basically is, these are all of the keyboard commands that you can use. We won't be using all of them, but what you can use to make your faces or make the new video look a little bit better. So for example, if I click the tab key here on my keyboard, which is, it shows you a picture of the tab key, so it's easy to find. I'm going to click the tab key, and you can see that at the moment that is what the the video is going to look like. It's a little bit blurry because we didn't let it run long enough, but you can see what it's trying to do. You can see the process here. So I'm going to click tab again to switch back to this window. And there are a few little tweaks that we can do on this window here just to make things look a little bit better, and I'm going to show you how I do this now. And one very quick tip that I do want to also add is, if for some reason when you click tab on this screen you just see a black screen, it's sometimes because there is a black frame at the start of your video. If that happens, just click the greater than key or the period key, our full stop key as some people may know it has, on your keyboard, which looks like a little arrow going right next to the key that's the arrow going left, and you can see this one here. So this will be next frame and this will be previous frame, and when I click that you'll see that the frame changes, and sometimes it's just because the very first frame of your video happened to be black, so that's what it's showing you. So don't be worried if you see a black screen, just advance 1 or 2 frames. And so the one that we're going to be using first is this one here, which is W and S. This is something called an erode mask. Now I don't know if you can see, but you can see a distinct edge around his face, especially here where it looks like the darker area where the shadow of Elon's head was compared to Robert, and also here it's going over his hairline, or Robert's hairline, sorry, Elon's hairline. So what you want to try and do is you want to try and erode that out, and what you can do is, if I bring this window here, you can see erode here, where at the moment it says erode is on 0. So whilst clicked on this screen here, you want to click W, because if I flick back, W was more erode and S is less erode. The top keys are always plus, the bottom are minus. So I'm going to click W, and as I click W you can see it changing here. Now I'm going to go to about 20. Now if I go back again you can see it changing every time I click. It just changes. Now I find that 20 is a good range, and it just erodes this edge of the face and the side of the face to make it match a little bit better. We will be doing something else too which will make it even better. So next we're going to be using the blur mask, which is E for plus and D for minus. So let's click on E, and we're going to go to probably about 100 or so. So I'm just going to keep my finger down here and just get all the way to 100. Okay, now as you can see it's now blurred that face a little bit better. You can keep going, but obviously the higher you go the more it's going to blur it, and the more you're going to lose definition and end up almost back to Elon at times. So you want to go down to about 100. You can, obviously trial and error with these things. So yeah, 100 works for me. So what's happened now is this would have only changed these settings for this one frame. So what you want to do is you want to apply them to every single frame automatically. We're going to be using these keys here. Okay, so we have the slash with the question mark above it. I don't know if this is going to be slightly different for international keyboards, but I'm using this keyboard layout. But you're looking for the one with the question mark or the / and the shift key. Okay, you want to press them together at the same time. So we're going to go back to our first frame here, and we're going to click the 2 keys together, and you should see a little timer come up here and then disappear, and you'll know that's worked. There you go. So that's now worked, and it's now applied these settings to every single frame rather than just one. And then the next thing that we want to do is we want to process every single remaining frame, because although it's applied the settings it hasn't done the frames. So to do that we need to press the greater than, which is this key here, and the shift key together. Okay, I'm going to go back and greater than and shift, and you should get this little timer, and you should get on the other window it will say merging here. So let that go all the way to the top. It should only take about a minute or so for this sample. Okay, so that's now done. This window doesn't disappear on its own, so you do have to just exit and you'll be back here. So what you have to do is you now have to go down to merge to mp4.bat, and bitrate of output video, we're just going to leave that. Hit enter, and it will now create the video for you. So if you give it a moment, it will go off and do that, and I will pause the video and come back when it is done. Okay, so that has now done. As you can see, it says press any key to continue. So now that is done, what you want to do is you want to scroll up to workspace, double click, and you will see a video called result, and that is the final result. Now what's very, very good is the original video was 102 megabytes and the output video is 105, so at least you don't have to worry about it creating a stupidly big file that you can't upload anywhere. It tries to keep it at least similar in size to the original. But what's going to happen is I'm going to just play the original video just for comparison. So as you can see, it's just Elon talking on stage, and this is the result. Now please bear in mind, don't expect great results with my example, as I only ran it for 4,300 iterations, when really I would suggest 100,000 to be on the safe side. However, let's give it a go and see what it looks like. And actually, I tell you what, that's not too bad considering it was only running for 27 minutes of training. You can see what it was trying to do. It would obviously improve the mouth movements and it would improve the quality because the faces still look pretty blurred. But you can see just how easy it is to create a deep face video using this software and this technology. But hey, you know, give it a go, run it for longer iterations. You'll get much better results that way. Feel free to, you know, if you upload them to YouTube, feel free to drop a link in the comments section and show us what you've made with it. So yeah, that's it, DeepFaceLab tutorial. I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that it's clear enough for you. If you want me to create tutorials on anything else, feel free to drop them in the comments. And once again, thank you so much for watching my previous videos. It is a brand new channel and I'm trying to build it, so it's all very much appreciated. Thank you, and until next time, cheers.